We are live downtown Mitchell County.
Vacationer's Paradise.
Lettuce and a couple of greenhouses back here. I'm with Steve, Twisted River Farm. I thought it was Farms. You corrected me.
It might be Farms pretty soon. You never know.
I love it. So we're here to talk a little bit about, not your typical agriculture in Iowa or even the Midwest. A little bit different. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Get to know Steve and his company and kind of where they're heading. It's a unique company you got right now. Give us a little background, Steve. And again, you started this about 4 years ago.
7 years ago.
2013.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
So now we're getting to close to 8 years. Huh?
This is season number 7 for us.
A lot of people in North Iowa, specifically in Mitchell County, know all about the history, where it started, where the idea came from.
Vegetable farm located right here in Mitchell, Iowa. That specializes in leaf lettuce, spinach, in a very small nutshell, what Twisted River is right now. Actually, in good diet, actually, my wife and I were starting a new diet, and obviously mine didn't really take, but we were getting.
Look great.
We were really excited about learning about local food through this diet. We kind of fell down that rabbit hole of seeing what was all available around us locally and wanting to get to know it more. And I guess what we saw was a lot of opportunity in that there was at that time not a lot of local food available in North Iowa. It's changed a lot now in today's landscape, but we saw a big opportunity, so we thought, what the heck, let's.
Specifically, you have a passion. Are you going to stick around in Iowa for a while?
My passion comes from I just love connecting with people over food. I obviously like it a lot, food that is, and I get it at a really basic level. Food is something everybody needs. We can all gather around it and connect around it, and it's just a lot of fun for me to be able to provide a product that people are eating for a lot of very reasons: sustenance, for trying new things, so to be kind of at the leading edge of it,
a fad, if you want to say, and it's probably been in Des Moines, it's been maybe in Cedar Rapids, but to have it here locally is great. But why do you think it's so important for local food to be grown and then sold locally as well?
Oh boy, reasons. We could probably sit here and talk for the whole podcast. From the overarching big picture things are just the nutrient density. When you have locally grown food, it doesn't lose any nutrient in transit, as a lot of vegetable does in our bigger food in the country. It's shipped from thousands of miles away, and well known that you lose a lot of that nutrient density in transit, so you get a higher nutritional density. The quality is a lot better just because it, again, isn't in transit for so long, so we can have the best quality product we can possibly have when it's grown locally. You're supporting local. I mean, not only us, but other little farms. Those dollars stay in the community. They're not being sent to wherever. So that's really important. And I think it's kind of, even in a more philosophical sense, it's like the fabric of the community. It's something that the community can be proud of. Like, hey, we've got a bustling local food system here. We've got all sorts of people growing all sorts of cool stuff. And it's kind of like the terroir of, North Iowa. We can get stuff that tastes a little unique here as opposed to being grown anywhere else. So I think it's you got, some attraction there and some benefits there too.
So for you, out of all the businesses that you could have started, I mean, you could have went traditionally and went corn. You could have went traditionally and
not really. We didn't have the money for that.
You could have went at a completely different route as well, and you could have done restaurant. You could have opened a hardware store. What have you? Why did you choose this? And there's money behind it as well. I mean, you wouldn't be sitting here if this was just a hobby. You want to make this a full-fledged business.
Yeah. Why a farm? Well, I again, you kind of touched on it. I grew up in eastern Montana on a sugar beet farm, so I kind of have a farming background. The funny part is I never wanted to be a farmer. I wanted to get away from the farm when I was a kid and go do anything else. I kind of wanted to get into the business world, whatever that meant. But I never really had any direction. I didn't really have any other passion. And I worked in some really cool other industries that gave me a lot of good experience, but nothing really scratched the itch. I never really knew what it was. I just knew I wanted to work for myself someday, doing what I don't know.
Yeah.
Eventually, I was hoping it would find me, and I think it kind of found me through this avenue.
I was going to say, I think it definitely.
And I have a really sappy story if you want to hear it.
I do want to hear it.
So, if you mixed all the stuff that was going on in my life in a big cauldron, none of this would have happened if they would have happened independently of each other. It all had to happen at the same time. One of the I had a really good job in retail sales, and had a very comfortable position, very nice salary, comfortable life, but doing that diet at that same kind of time. And so I was kind of getting interested in just eating health. Sappy part is Super Bowl of 2012. That's a long time ago. You probably don't remember this a bit. I'm not really that religious, but it just took me back to when I was a kid driving around in the pickup with my grandpa, listening to Paul Harvey on the radio while we were looking at sugar beets, and just throw all that into a big cauldron and stir it up. And all of a sudden I wanted to be a farmer, just out of nowhere. 20 years later, hadn't been on a farm in 20 years. And all of a sudden now I want to be a farmer. And that's how it happened.
And that's how it happened from that commercial.
That one, yeah.
You kind of knew.
So Dodge Trucks, if you're watching this video, I would be happy to be a sponsor, a pickup or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a good story, Dodge. You should be paying attention to that. So now you are a farmer. What do you have that you have available for the public? I didn't know what to expect when I told Christina, I'm like, no idea what to expect. And philosophy of how you were talking about, because it's weather related, obviously my background. But tell us about everything that you have available now. I know you mentioned the lettuce and all that, but we have a couple of greenhouses around. Talk about your property and your business overall.
Sure. So again, we specialize in leafy greens. So a lot of salad mixes, spring mix, spinach, different blends of different kales and mustard greens, that kind of stuff. We name all of them, so they're all branded and they've got a UPC code. So we really specialize in leafy greens. We have microgreens. If the camera were to turn 45 degrees to our left, you could see our shop, which is part shop, part garage, part grow room where we grow microgreens year round. Microgreens, if viewers aren't aware of what they are, they're just a small green that we grow from seed to harvest in about 7 or so days. And they have a variety of different uses. They're super convenient to just throw on a sandwich or on in a salad or on tacos, pizza. Your creativity is kind of the limit there where you can put a microgreen.
Give us a couple of microgreens so people can.
Pea shoots, our micro blend, which is mainly just micro radish and micro cabbage, and then we grow micro broccoli. So we have 3 different microgreen products now that we sell. You can grow just about any vegetable to a microgreen stage and eat it, and it'll taste very similarly to its adult counterpart. Why do people like microgreens? Again, the convenience, but also they're extremely nutrient dense. So the foodies and the health community love microgreens because you can get a lot of nutrients in a very small package.
Yeah, a lot of vitamin A, vitamin K.
All of the above.
Okay.
Yeah, and more. They say micro broccoli, for example, one of the ones that we grow is 400 times more nutrient dense than adult broccoli.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy. We don't really market it as superfood. We have really marketed on convenience. You know, mom's busy. She's had a rough day at work. The last thing she wants to do is chop up a head of lettuce. She can reach in the fridge, grab a handful of microgreens and put them on the kid's sandwich and know that it's quick, it's easy, and it's full of nutrients, and she can feel good about giving her family, you know, nutrient dense food. That's easy.
So,
and then the other stuff, kind of continuing on, the greenhouse over our table here is right now currently full of tomatoes that are just about at fruiting stage. We'll have those in that tunnel until about the end of the summer, September, early October, and then we'll convert those over to leafy greens for winter production.
okay. You got some stuff across the street.
Same stuff, leafy greens. You know, everything's leafy greens. Yeah. So as we were talking earlier, our marketing strategy is not the A to Z selection of vegetables where you'll find sweet corn and potatoes and onions and all that kind of stuff. We have super niched ourselves into leafy greens. And the reason why is mainly space availability at the beginning of when we took over this property, but market opportunity. Not a lot of people grow.
Not around here.
Not a lot of people grow leafy greens around here. Where do you get a fresh, locally grown salad in the middle of July in North Iowa, except for from Twisted River, you know?
Yeah.
So we've really kind of found that little corner of the market, and it's leafy greens.
What do you pride yourself most in? You know, if some companies it's quality, some it's marketing, some it's I want to take care of the customer. Everyone is going to say they do all those things, but what is really what you guys are focusing on right now?
We really strive for the quality, in all those things. We want happy customers, so they buy our product again. We like interacting with those customers, but we take an immense amount of pride and seriousness in the quality and the safety of our product.
How do you do that?
Training, cleanliness, you know, eyes on the product. You know, a lot of times you plant something and people neglect it, the weeds take over. We are out constantly looking at our product. If we see bad spots, we get rid of it. We'd rather till it under than send bad product out, you know. And so we have a very rigorous grading and sorting and washing and packaging system that we've developed over the last number of years, which is somewhat out of necessity, but also to accommodate the quality of. We're checking that all those greens. You know, it's impossible to look at every single leaf, but we're getting 4 sets of eyes on it by the time it leaves the field to the time it gets in the package, so we can find bad leaves. We can find those little bugs that happen to wander in there. You know, we can pick out all that stuff and sort it out and grade it and send out the best possible product that we possibly can.
So let's talk about the genes of the plants. Where are you getting your seeds? Are you going to Hy-Vee to get your seed, or are you working with someone or a company that is really high quality that you're trying to get the best bang for your buck?
We buy most of our seed from about 4 different companies. One's in Maine, Johnny's Seeds, which if anybody's a gardener, they probably got in the Johnny's catalog at some point or another. I consider them the Lexus of seeds. They're expensive, but you're going to get a super great product. I mean, I don't want to say set it and forget it, but you can put a seed in the ground and just be about guaranteed that it's going to be the best vegetable you've ever had.
How did you come across them and make the decision that you had to have them?
We've looked, we're constantly getting stuff from other companies. We'll see stuff in the, winter times when we go shopping. We get all the we get stacks and stacks of catalogs from all the different seeds houses around the country. We know what we like, what we're looking for, but we're always kind of looking for new stuff too. So we're always trialing new varieties of lettuce. Sometimes we like them and they'll end up in a mix or maybe by themselves, and sometimes we don't even do anything with it. We till it under, so it's just a constant. And we have lots of resources out there now. Facebook, there's tons of market gardening groups we can look at, and people are always on there talking about showing their new variety that they got from this place or that place, and here's how it looks. YouTube, so there's just tons of information out there for us to select product from. And we've just over the years found stuff that works in our system. We like the quality. It's easy for us to grow. We can get a good price for it, and people like it. So that's kind of the matrix that we use.
You market yourself as a 12-month a year, right? Company that, you're not just working. There are a lot of gardeners around here that are setting it in May and they're done in September.
Yep.
They're tilling it up. They're ready for next year. Process. What's that like to be able to do that 12 months out of the year? There's harder months, I'm assuming, than I'm sure February is one that we talked about that you pointed out.
Yeah. So, microgreens, that's really how we started on the gardening side, was with microgreens, which are indoors all year long, so they never see the light of day. And that's I kind of jokingly call that our factory farm, not to use that term lightly, because I know it's kind of a hot button in the egg world and the food world, but it's very consistent. We can put a seed in and we know, because we control the lighting and the temperature and all that kind of stuff, we can have a very tight harvest schedule, and we can heat and air condition that particular room so we can grow year round. So that has been our 12-month product since day one. But with the greenhouses now, which we actually call them hoop houses, we are getting into a new system using geothermal type technology where we can heat those things using ground heat for pennies, versus the typical system is you hang a big Modine LP or natural gas heater up in the corner and burn natural gas or petroleum or LP all winter to heat those things. We've avoided that just from a cost perspective and an environmental perspective, where we can, so far we're seeing positive results from using ground heat to keep the ambient temperature at nighttime somewhere in the 20s, which is still cold and it still freezes. But with, like, say, spinach, for example, spinach is the king of cold. It's viable probably down to around 5 degrees. So at 20, it's wearing shorts and a tank top. It's loving life in there. And so that's we just started playing around with that last winter. Now we're kind of doubling down on what we learned last winter going into 2022, and we're hoping then to have near year-round salad greens using that technology, which would be huge for us and North Iowa to have local salad greens in the middle of February.
Yeah, and for me, when you and I talked about that at the egg breakfast, was that March
or April?
Was it April?
Yeah.
That right away piqued my interest of you probably saw that in my eyes when you were talking.
Yeah.
Like, that's a really cool way to not only see it for you, but to be environmentally conscious of what you want to do. Explain how that works.
So we're working with a gentleman, Eric Jellum, who lives about 7 miles south of here in south of Osage. He's a corn and soybean farmer, but he's very environmentally conscious and conservation conscious, and he's very forward thinking and takes a lot of interest in alternative systems for conventional things. So he actually put in a geothermal corn drying system in his place, using ground heat to dry a bin of corn. imagine the looks his neighbors probably gave
They
him.
probably all think he's crazy.
Probably,
But how much
but it
it
works, and it costs him $1 for, you know, I don't
versus
even know.
1,000 probably.
Yeah, you know, who knows what it is. He'd probably tell us if he was sitting here, but he approached me. We actually met at the brewery in Osage a couple of years ago, and he was just interested in what I was doing, and we got to talking, and he mentioned his corn drying system, and I thought it sounded cool. And then a few beers later, we kind of got to talking about the possibility of using that particular system to warm a hoop house. And so then many more beers later, we decided to.
Was there any beers left after you guys got done?
It was a series of meetings, but we applied for and received a grant through the USDA, an offshoot called SARE, which is a Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education. It's everybody calls it SARE. I think that's what it stands for. But anyway, they will give grants to farmers and ranchers for new ideas such as this. And geothermal heating for greenhouses is not a new idea. They've been around for years, but most times they're using air versus what we're doing is water.
Water. That's what I thought was interesting.
And so this is, as far as we can tell, nobody's done what we've done or doing. And so the process looks like this. What we're doing is this particular greenhouse behind us, or hoop house, is 30 foot wide by 48 foot long. And we're going to build the identical structure done at his property. We're going to, before we build it, trench down about 8 feet inside of the hoop house footprint and bury coiled loops of PVC piping in two independent loops. So we'll have 2 loops we can separate from each other underground. In the wintertime, what we'll do is pump water continuously through there.
The same water.
It's just going to cycle through, come back up, just using a little water pump. So hardly any energy to do that. When the water comes back up out of the ground, it'll be warmed to the temperature of the earth. And in the wintertime, that could be 52 degrees. That's plenty warm. How do we transfer that heat to the air? Because we're going to blow it out into the main structure. The piping will come up out of the ground and run through a series, we call it heat exchangers, but just think of like a truck radiator. It's the same thing. It's just bigger. The water goes through the radiator and transfers the heat from the water to the air, and a big fan will sit in front of those heat exchangers and blow air across and basically suck the heat out of that water and exchange it and blow that air into the as far as energy consumption is running a little water pump and a fan, and we should be able to keep that particular hoop house for leafy green production. That any
and even on the coldest, we had a couple of cold mornings, and I mean, we had, I think, 3 or 4 days that we were sub-zero. You were still above that mark of 5 degrees for spinach. You said you were at 13 at some.
Well, the coldest that we experienced this winter on outside was -20 using a well water. I can explain that if you want me to, but we're doing a trial in our hoop house now with well water instead of buried loops. and the coldest that it got was 13 degrees using just well water. You actually have to open it up because it'll get too hot in there. Imagine that. So it's kind of crazy. It's a great place to drink beer in January. Let me tell you what.
I bet it is. Especially some of those days after big snows where you have a complete blue sky.
Yeah.
Angle
Sun.
you're like, oh,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Brutal. I can't wait till June.
The thing
IT will get shared.
That was
that you wouldn't believe.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was awesome. It was fun.
Breakfast. I mean, frozen. What happened?
There we go.
Oh, we're back.
Okay.
It's because we
In the middle of nowhere.
We have great internet here.
are here, and so our internet connection is not the greatest.
Actually, that gray pipe that's coming up out of the ground right behind you, they're trenching in fiber optic right now, and we're about 2 months away till we'll have fiber optic here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're 2 months early.
We're entering the new era of we might have internet here.
So
we're running out of my hotspot.
we're actually, this is the best it's looked. This
You're
looks
welcome.
great. I don't know what she did, but thank you. No, but if you travel past Steve's place in Mitchell, it looks like someone that has 30, 40 years of experience. It looks really nice, fresh. So where did you learn all of this?
YouTube, and just doing it wrong. Doing it wrong a lot of times or once is usually enough for me to figure out, okay, that we didn't like it that way. And you know, how it looks right now is kind of a product of us transforming our farm into a tractor-based system now, where in the past years prior to this year, it's all been handwork and rototillers and wheelbarrows and shovels. And I've personally put just about 60 tons of compost on this little garden behind us over the course of 2 seasons or almost 3 with a wheelbarrow and shoveled it. So I can attest to how much compost is in there. But as we are growing and, you know, I'm not getting any younger, I want to be able to do this when I'm how old. We need to be able to mechanize our bed prepping and our field work to be able to take some of that back-breaking physical labor out of the equation. So my neighbor that lives down the street, Dave, he's like the best neighbor you'll ever have. He has a little John Deere 1050 that we just happened to discover last year straddles our bed widths perfectly. So it got me thinking, maybe we could do something with this. So over the winter, him and I talked quite a bit about our approach to like weed management and bed prepping and all that kind of stuff. And he just is such a help and loves getting involved. So our bed prepping, I always call it turn and burn. Our stuff grows extremely quickly. Lettuce, spinach, all that stuff grows really quickly. We get a couple cuts off of it and then we turn it under and plant something else. So each one of these beds, there's 13 of them in this garden, we'll probably get 4, if not 5 crops in it by the time the season's done. We grows in arugula is 18 days from seed to harvest, and we can cut it in 7 days. It grows back. We harvest it, till it under, plant something else, and then I always say under 30 days, usually our stuff grows. So we're moving a lot of material, and his tractor and a few implements we bought this winter are allowing us to really not have to touch a shovel or a hoe at all this year, and it's making life and cultivating. We bought a cultivator that will do the footpaths, so we keep the footpaths nice and clean. It takes me 3 minutes with the tractor, and it would take me 4 hours doing it by hand with a stirrup hoe. So time has been saved and just back-breaking labor, and so that's really transforming our farm as we speak, and we're still kind of working out some of the kinks. But as mentioned earlier, about a block that way, some other neighbors have a 2-acre plot we took over this year, and we're transforming that into a huge production garden. And so that was a series of, we went over and burnt it because it was just scrub. So we burnt it, and then we chisel plowed it, and then put half of it into a rye cover crop, and then we put a half of it into production beds. And so we're taming it. We've got product in there now. We'll probably have our first harvest off of it later this week. So it's kind of, we're figuring it out. And so far it's working pretty flawlessly. So,
and my philosophy has always been work smarter, not harder if you can. And that sounds like something that you guys are getting into.
I'm thinking about getting that tattooed because that's my mantra as well.
It really is. And that's something that Christine and I always talk about. It's like, you know, we can talk about how hard we work, but are we working smart enough? And it sounds like you're getting the grasp of that as you evolve in this business.
Yeah. Well, and you know, that kind of comes from a place of making it easier, but also making it a little bit more standardized, so we can move into mechanical planting, mechanical harvesting. Yeah. So that'll increase efficiency. That'll increase just the amount we can grow as we're expanding our market, literally our geographic footprint. We need to do that stuff just to be able to grow enough to meet, you know, those markets. And let's just see what's out there. Everybody's dealing with it. Labor is hard to find. Oh, yeah, and we've got a great crew now, but what's the future look like? So we need to be able to kind of like build in some mechanical systems to compensate for the fact that we don't know that we're going to have people that are going to want to go out there and shape beds with rakes and, you know, wheelbarrow, you know, 15 loads of compost onto the beds.
We were probably the last generation that worked really hard. I think,
probably.
In the fields.
Probably.
You're not going to see that next generation like that.
Well, and you know, and like if you look at the bigger agricultural picture, you know, stuff's getting automated. You know, we have autonomous tractors, and I mean, you look at vegetable production down in like Salinas, California, or Yuma, the salad bowl regions, where, you know, they've got autonomous weeders and planters, and I mean, it's coming.
Big farmers don't even drive their own tractors anymore.
They don't.
Jump in and push a button.
It's coming. So I mean, we're probably, who knows if we'll ever get to that level, but we need to be able to be competitive at a cost price point. You know, as we sell into grocery stores, we can't be $6 higher per container than, you know, our
if the quality's there, you can. And I think that's kind of what I want to transition to.
Yeah.
Two things we'll talk about in the next 10, 15 minutes. I want to talk about the marketing strategy, but first, the farm to table process for you guys. What's that like as you clip off the greens, you stuff it into your well positioned, you know, whatever you want to do for containers, and then where they go. So what's that process like?
So harvest, we have a mechanical little harvester that's ran by a cordless drill. So we don't have to cut anything with a knife anymore, which we've been doing that for a few years now. And that is a big labor saving. Once the product comes off the field, you see all those totes over there. You at home probably can't see those. We just harvested a little bit today, so they're out. We washed them and they're out there drying right now. We harvest everything into just Rubbermaid totes, and then we take it into the shop. We have a 100-gallon wash tank. We fill with cold water. We weigh the totes, record the data so we can track our yield and so forth. And then we wash the greens, and we have a PVC, we call it our bubbler. There's a PVC little structure that we lower into the water and weight down, and then we pump air through it, and it pushes up air, so it looks like a hot tub basically. So it churns the greens, and there's some videos on our Facebook page if anybody wants to see that. That shakes off any dirt and stuff, and then from there we put it into our spinner. So it's just like at home when you're washing your salad. How do you wash it? You got to wash it and then put it in your little hand crank salad spinner to get all the water off of it. Well, we don't have time to hand crank 300 pounds of greens every week, so we converted an old washing machine into a salad spinner. And I should have showed you that, but basically we just chopped the top off of it and rewired it so it just goes into spin only, so it's on a toggle switch. And then we have a big basically I think it's a Rubbermaid garbage can we drilled a bunch of holes in, so it's like a huge strainer. We dump the greens in there, set it down in there, flip it, it spins for 90 seconds, and they're just as dry as you want them to be after about 90 seconds. And then we put them into another clean tote, and then we put it into our walk-in cooler, and we let them sit in there for a couple hours to just further dry and to cool. And then we go into our packaging. We have a packaging area where all of our stuff, most of our stuff goes out into clamshell or small bags with a nice label on it for presentation. We do some bulk bagging for some restaurants. So kind of depending where the end customer, what they're getting, depends on what we're packaging into. And then we box everything up and put it back in the cooler, and then we distribute it however it needs to go.
Amazing, by the way.
You've had it before?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything bad. The first time I think I saw it in, I've seen it in Hy-Vee, but I saw it at Taste,
Mm-hmm.
one of your customers. Who are your customers? And then who are you looking to push toward the future of like other customers?
So when we got started in the market gardening, as we call it, everybody on YouTube I was watching was selling into restaurants, but they're in really big markets like Vancouver and Chicago, and you can make a living selling just to restaurants. So I just thought, hey, we're going to sell to restaurants. And so we started talking to restaurants, and we got into a bunch of them. At I think our height, we were in about 13 of them around the area. Then we just started, if you would have talked to me 5 years ago, I always say I would have never thought we would ever be big enough to sell into a grocery store. Like, I just thought that was going to be never a market stream we would ever get into. It was a little intimidating. Like, I've never really sold into a grocery store before. What does that even look like? So we worked with a little store over in Clear Lake called Simply Nourished. They're still one of our best customers, and they were kind of just getting going at the same time we were. So we were able to kind of learn from each other a little bit on that buyer-seller relationship. And I think we've been in there 5 or 6 years now. But anyway, that gave us the knowledge and the confidence to go approach other grocery stores. And present day, we're in 8 grocery stores, a couple independents. We're in S&S Locker and Osage. So we're in a lot of retail locations. We're in 5 restaurants now. We lost a bunch because of COVID. And that was not so much that they closed, we lost them because they had to close. And then when they came back, we had shifted our marketing because of COVID. We were like, well, we don't want to lose all these restaurant accounts. What are we going to do? We ended up developing a home delivery program. And so that has flourished. And so when restaurants started opening back up, we kind of took the approach of, well, if they call us, we'll sell to them, but we're not as hungry for restaurant, like new accounts as we were at maybe one time. And so,
well, if you followed, you obviously follow this, but if you follow kind of the trend in the 2020s, it's going to be home delivery. This is 100% where Amazon and every other company is going. So you've picked up on that niche, I think. And a lot of times in North Iowa, and anything that's going to be rural, it can take 5-10 years before that trend can hit here.
You can start delivering to Stacyville.
Yeah,
we're in St. Ansgar.
You can start delivering to Stacyville.
I'll meet you halfway. How about St. Ansgar?
Is this your wife?
Yes, my wife.
You've hit on something, I think, that others are probably going to start following, not just in the vegetable or green world, but I think other spots too.
Well, as we talked about earlier, my background is sales and marketing, and I don't really come from the typical, as I always say, most of your farmers don't like to market. They don't like to sell. They just want to farm, and they want to ride in the tractor and milk the cows or whatever they're doing. They just don't really like, most of them anyway, I'm generalizing. There's some that are awesome salespeople, but most of them in a general sense really don't like to get out there and sell to product, you know, and so that's kind of where we got commodity agriculture in a way. And so I like to do that kind of stuff. And so I really look broad picture a lot, probably a lot bigger than Twisted River should even be looking a lot of times, but I'm always looking on the horizon of what's coming down. And it's not so much home delivery that I have focused on, but it's part of it, but it's convenience. I want to take my product where people can get it easily. It's just like when we started the farm, we started raising meat chickens because we couldn't find them. Like, where do you go if you don't know a farmer to buy a meat chicken, like to put in your freezer? We didn't know, you know, it's hard to find. So my, I guess, philosophy, my mantra in starting Twisted River is I want it to be very accessible. I don't want people to go, well, where do I find that at? It should just be like, well, God, it's here too. Geez, they're everywhere. Yeah. And so that's our approach to our marketing, being in grocery stores and restaurants, farmers markets, food hubs, you know, home delivery. I want to make it convenient. There shouldn't be an excuse of, oh, I don't eat local food because I can't find it. Well, not on our watch, you know, that's not going to happen.
Let's talk a little bit about marketing, and then we'll play a little game to end things off. Your website is impressive, and I think what you guys have been doing is impressive. And I forgot who I was talking to. I think about a week and a half, I was talking to a gentleman out of Madison. We were just talking about business stuff. And one thing I want to kind of jump back, and then we'll go into marketing, is he's surprised. Well, we start to see it now, but he's really surprised that a lot more farmers don't get MBAs. And
it's too expensive.
It's expensive. But I think the really successful farmer, especially ones in the coming generations, where you're not going to have as much opportunity for yield, at least from how many acres you're going to have, and you're going to really have to pump up the most you can out of that. MBAs are important, but that's a whole other topic.
Right.
The marketing stuff. How are you guys positioning yourself? I mean, you guys have a great website, great logo. I think everywhere that you go, if you have something with Twisted River Farm, you know, what's your approach?
We're not bashful to fly the flag, so to speak. The approach, I guess, we've taken from our marketing is just that, to really build the brand. Again, kind of going back to typical little vegetable farms, they put like nothing into brand development. It's just, I stand behind a table and you buy my carrots and then I'm going to go home. And they don't really think about the farm name or the branding and any that kind of stuff. And we have, like, you know, there's other farms that are doing that. We're not, you know, the
majority of them aren't, though.
We're not the first one through the wall by any means. There's a lot of other little farms around here that are doing that kind of stuff now and doing it very well. So we're not unique in that regard, but our approach is to develop the brand. As I always say, we're not really Pappy's Old Farm. Like, my wife and my daughter really don't like to do this kind of stuff. So this is my job. My wife has her job. We don't really run it as a family or anything like that.
They're not helping at all ever?
I think my wife's been in this garden like 3 times since we've lived here or something. And I say that knowing she's like 30 feet over there. Yeah. She would agree. It's just not her thing. And yeah, she's got her job. I've got my job, and she's very supportive of it and thinks it's cool and everything. She doesn't really want to do it, which is fine by me. Whereas, you know, some people just kind of develop their farm image around, you know, everybody gather together and we're going to go out and work the land. And that's cool if that works for you and that's what you want to do. We don't approach it from like a homesteading or anything like that place. This is a business. We're trying to put a good product out there and develop the brand and make it a thing people can be proud of and the community can embrace. So that's kind of been our strategy with marketing, is to make it almost more about the brand. You'll notice I don't put a lot of pictures of myself on there. Which people like to see pictures of who's growing their food, but I try to make it more about the farm rather than about me. So,
don't you think you're part of the brand though?
Some, yeah.
I agree. I get it. You're the food, but I think there has to be someone with it. But.
Yeah. No, I try to sprinkle it in because it is important and I recognize that, but I also, I don't know.
I saw your team, but I had a hard time trying to find you.
I was the first one, so first one because then everybody forgets it, and then they always remember the last one. So. That isn't me though. I have a girl that does all of our social now. Since about the first of the year, I haven't done anything with our social, so that's all her.
We'll give her a hard time next time we see her.
Yeah.
Before we start doing some of the fun stuff, one thing we didn't mention, we talked about all green stuff, tomatoes.
Mm-hmm. So having the houses now allows us to do some new things that we haven't really done before. Tomato production, and so in this house right behind us is kind of our entry into the tomato world. Kind of keeping with the theme of Twisted River, which is baby leaf and small, we are growing cherry and grape tomatoes. So that's kind of our niche, is small and grows quickly and makes a lot. And so that's kind of our matrix again of what we're going to grow. We're not growing big heirloom slicers or canning tomatoes or anything like that. It's all going to be in little pint size, the little vented clamshells with a nice Twisted River logo on it, or label, I should say. And so we have 6 different, basically this year is about trialing. We're trying to see what we're kind of growing some stuff that's just well known for good producers, high yielders. And so there's some popular stuff we're growing as far as variety goes. And then we mixed in a few that we just kind of wanted to play around with and try. So this year is all about experimentation, seeing how the market reacts. I have no doubt that we'll be able to move all of it, but we just kind of want to see what people are responding to, what they like, and then doubling down on that, and then trying it all again next year, hopefully.
Good.
Yeah.
Rapid fire time. All right. So I'm going to ask you some questions. They can be, you can give me a word, you can give me a sentence, you can give me a paragraph. You can talk about anything you want. I'm just going to start asking you some interesting questions. Some might be related. Some might be like, what the hell are you talking about?
Sure.
What do you drive?
I drive a 2011 Dodge Caravan with 3 Twisted River logos on it.
So I thought that was interesting, and I knew that was going to be my first question. Soccer mom van.
Yeah. Well, it's an awesome delivery vehicle. So we're not quite to the point of needing like a big reefer truck or anything yet. We might not be that far away, but right now it's perfect, especially for like home deliveries, because you got to get in the driveways and so forth and whip down streets pretty quick. So it's got, this one we just got last fall. The seats all lay down. They pop right back up, so you don't have to take them out. I had an old Dodge Caravan we had before this one where all the seats had to come out. So it was basically just a big flatbed in the back. And it works great. You crank the AC up and everything stays cold. And it's got satellite radio, so I can listen to...
You're enjoying life now.
Whatever. It's actually kind of fun. Yeah.
For you, what do you put in a salad? I'm sure you've had quite a bit of your greens, but if you're having a good salad for dinner, what are you putting in there?
I like a there's a restaurant in Osage, tell you what, that makes one of my favorite styles of salad. So it's a bourbon barbecue chicken with shoestring onions and black beans and corn and cucumber and big chunks of chicken. That's kind of my favorite salad.
Of course, with your greens.
Of course, with our greens. I don't know, they don't use our greens, but that's the style of salad that I like.
Okay. What is going to be, so you're into greens? We mentioned the tomatoes. If you had another vegetable that you were going to end up harvesting and planting and all that, what would it be?
There's a couple of them we're looking at. Again, with this new plot, we have space. And so this year, we're also kind of already thinking about next year. Well, what are we going to put in that half that's in the cover crop this year? And typically with our land size and space, we don't grow any long season stuff. So again, you're not going to see potatoes and corn and onions and all that stuff that takes more than 35 days. We want a very tight window. Over there, we have the time and the space now. So what is that going to be? I don't know yet. I love peppers. So peppers are kind of on my radar a little bit. There's a need. You can get bell peppers, but you can't really see much else as far as like banana peppers. And I've talked to some pepper producers at some conferences, and they all say the same thing. Everybody tells you that they want the hottest thing possible, but nobody ever buys them. So don't grow like the scorpions or the habaneros and all that. I mean, some of those may be a little fringy, but like everybody says they want the hottest ones, they never buy it. So just stick to like no hotter than like a jalapeno and you'll be golden. Yeah. So, and we might get into some cole crops, maybe some broccoli or some cauliflower. There's kind of some possibilities with that. So we've got some maybe outside of the greens world type stuff that we're looking at for that space.
You said you were surprised that 5 years ago that you would have never believed that you were going to be in that grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
In another 5 years, what would be kind of something that you could maybe see yourself doing, but you would be really surprised that you would?
I don't know, because all options are always on the table.
True entrepreneur.
Yeah. Nothing really. The thoughts have always crossed my mind about like what are we building towards? What could be possible? And certainly the new frontier in local food, and we're working on it in North Iowa right now, is the farm to school. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, especially for small vegetable farms. And we've already kind of broken through the gate on a couple of them. But to get into like local schools at that scale, those institutional buyers, I think is something where we could really see ourselves. It wouldn't be something I would say never to, but at where we sit right now, I would say we have no capacity to fill 10 schools.
Yeah.
But 5 years ago, I would have said we had no capacity to fill 8 grocery stores. So that might be it. And, there's other in the hospitals and, those big institutions that typically little farms have no business talking to. We might not be that little for much longer.
All it takes is one opportunity to open up a door for
Exactly.
so many different
Exactly.
things. And we've seen that.
Yeah.
For you personally, it's kind of a two-part question. How many hours do you think you work a day or a week rather? And then when you're not working, what the hell are you doing?
I work now. My loving wife has kind of set my schedule for me a little bit. No, I was not always the best at work-life balance at the beginning, because you got to do what it takes when you're first getting going. I mean, if it takes you till midnight and you're out there with a headlamp, guess what? We're putting on a headlamp, and so I wasn't always the best at that, even though she's like knocking on the window, like, hey, dinner's ready. Hey, you need to do the dishes. Hey, the garbage hasn't been taken out in 2 days. Yeah. And so we, over the last few years, have kind of found a more happier balance of, I honestly don't work past 5 o'clock any days anymore. I really try to get out early, and if something's not done at 5, well, I guess it's going to have to wait till tomorrow. And again, because of the way we've kind of positioned the farm, just from a systems point of view, I'm able to pretty much do that now. I take Sundays mostly off. Saturdays I go to the farmer's market, and then I come back and drink a beer and
enjoy your life.
What am I doing when on average, I probably work 40 to 50. Well, I'm probably not 40. Probably 50 to 60.
Which doesn't, honestly, for like you that probably worked 100 hours at one point, it's like,
yeah.
Do you ever feel like bad about it? Good.
No, not at all. It needed to be. In retrospect, yeah, I could have been more efficient. I could have done this better. I could have done that better. But it's all part of the process, and
that's where I'm at. I feel like I can be more efficient.
There's no regrets. It's just all part of. We wouldn't be here if I wouldn't have made those mistakes, and if I would have done it the hard. If I wouldn't have, I need to do it the hard way 50 times before I figure out to do it the easy way. So I had to do it the hard way a bunch of times, and for too long, honestly, to be able to figure it out. Yeah. So I don't feel bad about it. Kind of embarrassing maybe sometimes to admit that I did it that way, but otherwise, no.
I don't think that's
no.
I think we all have a goal, and we all have a path.
But the hard part about being an entrepreneur or business owner is, where does work stop and life start? Sometimes, especially when you live 15 steps away, it's easy for me to sneak out to my office, and I'm not working, but I'm doing stuff, Yeah. So sometimes it's a little blurry about, I'm not actually working, but.
So Mike, you're not losing sleep anymore about your business?
Not really, no.
Not anymore?
No, not too much.
Okay.
Being a farmer, I'm not unique in this, but you gotta kind of be an optimist, and you gotta have a gut made of pure iron, because if you get worried about the weather, if you get worried about, you're not probably gonna last too long. You gotta be able to weather that storm and kind of wake up and go, you know what, today might be a shithole day, but sorry, part of my language. But hey, tomorrow, the day after, it could be better, and we got to make the best of it. And if we made a mistake to cause it, what could we have done different and fix it and move on? Or if it's the weather, well, hey, can't cry about that because Mother Nature bats last all the time, as I say. So you can't really. And then what am I doing when I'm not hanging out here, having a few beers? I love to backpack and go camping. So I usually do that a lot in the fall and in the spring. I don't like to camp in the summer, and I don't usually have time anyway. But there's a group of us, Rochester and Mason City, that we go and do like the Superior Hiking Trail and some other backpacking trips, Yellow River State Forest. So if I have a hobby, I guess that would be it. But other than that, I don't really do much.
One of the last questions, I think we only have a couple more minutes. If you could change one thing or add one thing to your business, almost like a fantasy, like, if I could really, like for me, man, I don't know what we would probably like some really cool ass camera. Maybe like this ultimate studio.
A day off for Christina every week.
Oh, would that be nice?
You
Yeah.
don't want a day off. What would you do at that time? What
Probably a piece of, I don't know. I got a list of equipment a mile long that I'd love to have, and how would I just pick one? We're only a couple pieces of equipment away right now from being totally mechanized on greens, planting, harvesting, bed prep. So my dream equipment right now would probably be a tractor-mounted greens harvester, which really is not that far away from us getting. So that would probably be it right now. Ask me tomorrow, who knows? Could be something else, but right now that's what my mind's on.
Well, we're going to wish you the best of luck. Thanks for taking the time to do this.
This is fun. Thanks for coming out. Glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, we're going
to don't be a stranger.
Yeah, we'll be eating a lot more of your
We're going to start harvest tomorrow at 5 a.m. So we'll see you right back here at 5 a.m. and we'll pick some weeds after that.
That's about the time Christina goes to bed. So, all right, let's close her down. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll see you next Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever we decide to do a podcast.
Thanks for coming to Mitchell.